The episode originally had the working title World War II, but also early versions of the script quoted this episode's title as An Empty Child, being a reference to the very first Doctor Who story, An Unearthly Child, but was changed to The as to not sound too similar. Location filming took place at the Barry Tourist Railway, Barry Island, and its now demolished Butlins Holiday Camp, and had previously been the filming location of the 7th Doctor serial Delta and the Bannerman. The sound of Dr. Constantine's skull cracking as his face changes into a gas mask was considered too horrific in its full form by the production team and was cut before broadcast. However, writer Stephen Moffat claims on the DVD commentary to this episode that the sound was discussed but never put on, but it was added to the complete first series box set. Rose makes frequent references to the Star Trek character Mr. Spock, thus making it the first televised Doctor Who story to make a direct reference to Star Trek. According to Moffat in the commentary for this episode, the Doctor's reply to Rose asking, what should she call him, Doctor Who? His reply was originally going to be, I'd rather have Doctor Who than Star Trek, a metafictional dig at the Star Trek programme. The Chula ships are named after Chula, an Indian-Bangladeshi fusion restaurant in Hammersmith, London, where the writers celebrated and discussed their briefs on the scripts that they were to write for Series 1 after being commissioned by Russell T Davies. The working title for Episode 10 was originally going to be called Captain Jaxa. And the nanogenes were originally going to be called nanites. However, script editor Helen Rayner decided that this name sounded too much to similar nanotechnological devices in Star Trek The Next Generation, and so was changed. Now, as heard and seen in the episode, Jamie's voice is recorded on a tape, and while tape recorders were developed in Germany during the 1930s, the technology wasn't made available until the end of World War II for the rest of the world. Wire recording was used by the BBC during this period, but recording gramophones and using wax discs as a medium were more common. Moffat acknowledges his mistakes in the DVD commentary and jokingly, before you comment on why you're glad he's gone, I want to stress this was a joke. He jokingly suggested that an ancestor of Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart stole the machine from Germany to help with the war effort. As I stress, that was a joke. Please don't lose your shit. Jack riding the bomb while it was held in stasis is a direct reference to the Kubrick film Dr. Strangelove. Chasing a metallic object through the time vortex, the Doctor and Rose arrive in London during the Blitz. While Rose meets Captain Jack Harkness, the dashing time agent responsible for bringing the object to Earth, the Doctor finds a group of homeless children terrorised by Jamie, an empty child wearing a gas mask, constantly asking for his mummy. The child's plague is spreading throughout wartime London, and its zombie army is on the march. The Doctor and Rose form an alliance with Jack, but find themselves trapped in the abandoned hospital. They head to the crash site of Jack's supposed space junk and discover the ground zero for the mysterious plague. This story has a reputation for being one of the scariest in the series' history, and on this occasion, I most certainly agree. Furthermore, this is the first story, not counting Curse of Fatal Death as that was a parody, written by Stephen Moffat, who would go on to be showrunner of the series from 2010 to 2017, and would write one episode a year for every series of the Russell T Davies era. What makes this my favourite story from Series 1 is that, like a lot of my favourite stories from each Doctor and Doctor Who as a whole, it incorporates all the elements that I love: humour, mystery, atmosphere, horror, and superb character moments. Christopher Eccleston is once again brilliant in this story, though once again, is anyone really surprised at this point? He hits so many different aspects of the Doctor's character in this: whimsy, authoritative, glee, but also maintaining the Doctor's confidence throughout. I love the scene where he shows up at the house during the air raid. We don't see him come in or sit down at the table. He's introduced with a "thanks miss" when he gets his slice of meat. It's such a great introduction, but he also interacts with the kids and Nancy very well, as if he's always been there, so you don't question where the hell did he come from, and you just want to listen to him all the time, so it doesn't make the intrusion come across as, say, creepy or anything. Furthermore, I love the scene where he's talking to Jamie, who's outside the door. Everyone else has left in fear, but the Doctor knows what it's like to be an outcast. He knows something is abnormal about this child, but he's willing to open the door and see to him. That is the Doctor for me, looking out for the outcasts and making sure that no one is left out. I love his pride for humanity as well. In this time of war, Germany is winning, toppling country after country across Europe, and the Doctor has such pride for the one tiny island that just says no. It's the epitome of the Doctor's character, standing up and fighting for what you believe in because you know it's the right thing to do. Other noteworthy moments from Eccleston is the resolution to the cliffhanger. The Doctor, Rose and Jack are all surrounded by gas mask zombies in the hospital, and the Doctor, speaking like an angry parent, tells them all to go to their room. And it works. On paper, that sounds like such an anticlimax, but Eccleston's delivery just sells it for me. It's one of the best resolutions to a cliffhanger I've ever seen in Doctor Who. And good thing it did work.
Those would have been terrible last words.
However, for my Christopher Eccleston moment of the week, has to be the scene where they discover the Tula warship and the true intentions behind the nanogenes. The way Eccleston delivers it with such intimidation and wisdom is brilliant. The Doctor realises that human DNA has been rewritten by complete idiots, and he's outraged at this. The plague is spreading throughout wartime London, and soon humanity is going to turn into gas mask zombies that are looking for their mummies, and nothing in the world will stop them. The Doctor's disgust at the nanogenes feels so genuine here, and I really think out of all the Doctors, Eccleston was one of the better actors to nail the character's anger, though the scene that follows after everything has been resolved is the complete opposite. The Doctor is ecstatic because, just this once, everybody lives! It doesn't feel out of place in the episode, and it's such a fitting climax, but also for the Ninth Doctor's character. He's fought in a massive war that's seen the genocide of 2 species, including his own, and he was able to fix everything here without a drop of blood being spilt. It all adds to the Ninth Doctor's character arc of becoming the Doctor again. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So just take my word for it, Eccleston is brilliant here throughout. He's a consistent joy to watch. As for Rose, in all honesty, I don't really like her too much in this two-parter. I'm just not a fan of how available she says she is to Jack, despite having boyfriend Mickey back home. Jack flirts with her and Rose seems up for it. It just seems too unlikable for me. Now you may argue that this makes her relatable, and yeah, it does, but for me, not in a good way. I've known girls who do flirt with a lot of men and act unfaithful to their partners, but they're not really girls I want to hang around with. Also, how blind is she not to notice that the rope is attached to a barrage balloon that could easily float away into an air raid? However, on a positive note, I do like her scene with Nancy at the end, telling her that England wins the war in the end. While telling people from the past about the future is usually a big no-no, here I can forgive it a bit more, as Rose is trying to make Nancy feel better because Nancy feels that this is the end of the world, etc. This story is also the introduction of everyone's favourite time agent, Captain Jack Harkness, played by John Barrowman. Jack certainly makes a great impression here, and I love how his first couple of lines is a reference to his pansexuality.
I gotta go meet a girl. But you got an excellent bottom too.
When people complain about Bill Potts mentioning her sexuality every few episodes, Jack was about as subtle as a sledgehammer to the face. But anyway, Jack is such a suave and confident character. He feels like a cooler, more hip version of the Doctor. He has tons of gadgets at his hand, which is totally not a subtext for sex at all. But deep down, he's a bit of a cowardly con man who's more or less out to make a profit and look out for himself, and humiliate the time agency that wiped 2 years of his memory. On a side note, has anyone noticed that that's never really been answered in the series? It's never been revealed what Jack's real name is on the series, as the spin-off Torchwood revealed that he stole it from an RAF captain at the time. But who knows, 14 years on, I doubt anyone else really cares. What I love about Jack's character as well is that he does become a better person by the end. He's willing to hold the bomb that would drop on the Tula ship, and is even faced with no escape and about to die. Irony. Luckily enough, the Doctor does save him, and he more than earned his place on the TARDIS by the end. The potential for character growth was there, and it would definitely be explored more in subsequent appearances, in this series, and in reappearances. The supporting cast are also brilliant in this episode. Nancy, played by Florence Hough, gives a brilliant performance, and she goes through such a brilliant arc in this story. I need to stop saying brilliant. She lost her brother Jamie to a bomb in an air raid, so she does her best to find food and shelter for the homeless kids of London town. It shows that she won't let any other child suffer the same fate as Jamie. But she's also not a completely passive character and does portray her street smarts. I love that when she's caught by Mr. Lloyd, the owner of the house that she broke into to steal her food, and despite being a captive, having no home, and nearly caught by the police and living on the streets, she's still in complete control of the conversation, knowing the secret between Mr. Lloyd and the butcher. The final line is utterly classic.
Oh look, there's the sweat on your brow.
However, by the end, it's revealed that she is in fact Jamie's mother and accepts full responsibility for Jamie as his mummy, promising to always be his mummy. It's a brilliant ending, and there's nothing more powerful in the universe than the love between a mother and her child. Now, you can argue that the Doctor's presence is what made for a better person, and I hope you're still keeping track of this, cause it's still going to be important in the long run. Richard Wilson as Dr. Constantine is also amazing, despite his small screen time. He's more or less there just to give exposition about the crash site and the gas mask zombies, but there's so much more to his character. He's the only one left at the hospital, and in the war he's lost his children and grandchildren, but he's still a doctor and will stick by his job right up to his horrific gas mask transformation. Wilson's performance makes this character as much as the script. His transformation into a gas mask zombie is utterly terrifying. You can see the mask come out of his mouth and hear his skull crack as it takes over his face. It's one of Doctor Who's scariest moments in my opinion. He's more or less a plot device, but Stephen Moffat gives him so much character that you almost feel sad to see him transform, despite the fact you just met him 5 minutes ago. The child actors are also pretty good. They don't have that much to their characters, but the performances are pretty good, and that's a rarity in the acting industry to get good child actors, so bravo. An interesting aspect I find about this two-parter is that while it is regarded as one of the scariest and best in the show's history, when you think about it, there is no real villain in this. The nanogenes in the Tula warship are just misunderstood technology. The first human being they see is a dead boy wearing a gas mask, so all they do is repair him like they would a Tula warrior, but not a human, because they've never seen one before, and they do the same for every sick human being that they see. But it's not out of malice, it's just a huge misunderstanding. However, the stakes still feel high due to the virus becoming airborne by the last act, so it doesn't feel like a huge waste of time. The gas mask zombies in this are utterly terrifying. There's something so inhuman about a gas mask, but it's another example of taking a mundane object like children or regular people and just making it scary. It still gives me the chills even to this day. They also get great scares as well. They even managed to do the same scare twice in one episode and still make it effective. For example, in the hospital room, the Doctor, Rose and Jack listen to a tape of Jamie when he woke up asking for his mummy, and it keeps going. We hear a flickering noise to symbolise the end of the tape, and we still hear the words, "I'm here, are you my mummy," etc. And the Doctor realises that they're in the child's room, and boom, we see Jamie. But they even do it again, and it's still just as effective. When Nancy goes to see the kids, the scene starts with one of them, Jim, on a typewriter, and Nancy explains to them that they are not safe whenever they're with her. And the reason is because we still hear a typewriter clicking, despite seeing Jim, the one on the typewriter, next to Ernie, until Nancy asks why the typewriter is still going. It shows why the kids aren't safe with Nancy. It's still a great scare that's brilliant the second time round, and as the old adage goes, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Production-wise, I personally feel that this is the best looking episode of Series 1, and it being set entirely at night and in World War II definitely adds to that. The setting adds to the stakes, as a bomb could drop on them at any moment due to it being set in an air raid. There's so many scenes where it feels like you could just touch the screen, particularly the nightclub scene. It's dripping with atmosphere, and the lighting is utterly superb. James Hawes directs this story with such ease, and every scene oozes atmosphere and horror. I love how we see little by little of the child at the start. We see him from a distance, we see the shadow, we see him through the window and the front door, and it's a brilliant build-up to the eventual revelation. The green screen effects do show their age sadly in this, but the sound design during the Blitz is nothing short of spectacular. It sounds pretty accurate to what an air raid could have sounded like in those times. Murray Gold's music is also brilliant, hitting the right notes for horror, but also excitement when the episode calls for it. Fantastic stuff. So, to conclude, The Empty Child and the Doctor Dancers is a brilliantly written, multi-layered script with terrifying scares, superb production values, engaging characters, funny one-liners, and it's just an absolute blast to watch. You just never want it to end and wish that it could go on forever. And just this once, everybody lives! Well everyone, that's all from me this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of The Empty Child and the Doctor Dancers. Is it your favourite Stephen Moffat script, or what is your favourite Stephen Moffat script? Let me know and I'll have a look. And be sure to like, share and subscribe, and I shall see you all next time. Goodbye.
Are you my mom?